So some of the testing that we do at Okemos Family Chiropractic and Storm Chiropractic is a device called the subluxation station. It's NASA certified technology. And one of the tests out of there is something called HRV, which is heart rate variability. And one of the benefits of heart rate variability is it allows us a window in, a portal into the nerve system to differentiate between, is there balance between the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nerve system. And what we're seeing a lot these days is, just because the high pace of life and all the different stresses that we're all facing, is that a preponderance of individuals in that sympathetic, very strong sympathetic mode. And as a result of that, it's very well known that the sympathetic nerve system then produces a fight or flight response. The individuals tend to be more stressed. They tend to be more ADD-like symptoms, like a little more distractible, unfocused, scattered, not so present. And then as a result of being dominant in that system, they're not going to be able to move real well into the parasympathetic nerve system, which we all need to do to be able to shut down at night, to be able to sleep and rest properly and repair, but also to digest food as well. So being in that sympathetic system is, causing a lot of health problems as a result. So research has shown for natural means that there's 4 things that will really, really help settle down that sympathetic nerve system. And that is, number 1, getting your chiropractic adjustments. Number 2 is a supplement called Simplex, primarily, but also some minerals as well, possibly, from Standard Process. Those products will help settle down the sympathetic dominance or overabundance of the sympathetic nerve system. Also, breathing, as simple as that is, deep breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth. And then the final thing is yoga, massage, tai chi, so activities that are associated with some breathing type techniques as well. So we also incorporate those ideas into our practice and what we're doing for our practice members as well. What are you guys seeing as far as, especially for ADD type issues or sympathetic dominance?
Well, I think our body is so wonderfully designed that a sympathetic response is desirable in an acute sense. But because we live in such a stressed out culture that we see stress expressed on a chronic basis, that through physical, through constant emotional stresses, through constant chemical stresses, that we're seeing a chronic condition of a sympathetic dominance as opposed to just an acute reaction. And this chronic phase then it leads to a release of stress hormones such as cortisol, which then leads to another cascade of effects.
And ultimately what happens is that you're not able to sleep. And I think people forget that your body heals when you sleep. And when you're so stressed out, like Dr. Kirby said, your parasympathetic, which is your rest and digest, is not equally balanced. So at the end of the day, when you're stressed out and you're then unable to sleep on top of that because you are so sympathetic dominant, your body doesn't get that chance to heal at night when we're resting. So that is why we care so much about making sure that people are balanced, where there's homeostasis in the body.
And so much of the problem with the sympathetic dominance comes from the misalignments in the spine. The very top of the neck is richly innervated in the parasympathetic with the parasympathetic nervous system, and with injuries as early as the birth process, that area becomes misaligned, and that's why you see a lot of kids that are very sympathetic dominant without even having that repetitive stress. But when that's misaligned, the parasympathetic is suppressed, which then will bring on a state of sympathetic dominance in kids young as 2 and 3 years old.
And the cool thing is we use a technique called torque release technique, and the primary subluxations through that analysis are primarily the parasympathetic stimulators. So we see a lot of occiput adjustments, atlas adjustments, posterior and lateral occiput, which is right on the back of your head and on the side, your atlas, which is that very top vertebra, and as well as your sacrum. So we are very proud to say that we use torque release technique in both locations, which helps stimulate and facilitate that parasympathetic response.
And so that technique helps avoid, especially a lot of people initially, they're thinking of a chiropractor and that cracking noise and things like that. So especially for kids, they're loving to come in and get adjusted because it's an instrument. They're not going to hear any popping or cracking or anything like that. So it decreases any sort of fear.
Anxiety.
And kids are then the ones that are running into our practice and jumping on the tables and looking forward to their adjustments. So all these things, it is very important right from a very young age. One study is showing that by the time you're 5 years old, you could have potentially experienced somewhere in the neighborhood of 5,000 different falls, accidents, injuries, and things like that as well. And then there's also very good research out there and studies out there that support what we are saying as far as that chiropractic adjustments do reduce stress on the sympathetic nervous system as well.
And especially now with text messaging. I mean, children are always, always, always in that flexed state, right? That also produces a sympathetic dominant state. So as chiropractors, that's why we take x-rays to make sure that, hey, there are normals within the spine. And is your cervical lordosis, your neck curve, in its normal alignment right from a young age, so that we can teach postural exercises specifically tailored to your child, so that we can make sure that we are slowing down arthritis and degeneration. Because we just went to a seminar recently where the research showed that, was it 9% of 10-year-olds that have arthritis already starting and developing in their spine because of cesarean deliveries and as well as text-necks. The increase in cesarean rate. So people always say, well, my baby didn't have any trauma because it didn't have to go through the vaginal canal. Well, that research shows that. That's the way it's designed. So cesarean babies have a higher risk of having that reduced cervical lordosis right from birth.
Yeah, I think a lot, it's important, as Dr. Kirby was talking about, with that technique, kids love it. And anybody that's, there's no point in producing anxiety when we're trying to reduce anxiety. And I think when you see our office, I think that's the atmosphere. It's a very healing atmosphere, and it's amazing to see kids run in excited about their adjustments, and they innately know they're going to feel better. So it's a completely different response than you would normally see kids and children going into their doctor visits.
So we encourage you to call and make an appointment. We would go through some computer testing, maybe some orthopedic testing, range of motion, films if we feel it's necessary for that individual, and then we would outline a course of chiropractic care potentially if we feel that's necessary, and go through those recommendations with you. So to do that, you can reach us at 517-381-1880, and that'll direct you to either office, either the Okemos office or the Howell office.
And look for our scan days. We are so proud to let you know that we implemented in both locations our scan days. So stay tuned.